Yeah? Okay, we're still on page Chovov, somehow. My son says that this paragraph here is the entire AyinBase. In other words, we plow through this, we got our gates open.
Okay.
That's some statement.
But we have to plow through it in a meaningful way.
Maybe with that in mind, we can get some kind of orientation, what we're dealing with, how
The whole time, that's what I'm doing. That's what we spend our time on.
Okay.
All right. All right, so today after the introduction, but right now we're just pointing away, we're going to start inside. We're going to start inside on the line that begins with what delulay. Again, this is not the first time we are going into this line, but hopefully today we will go a little further. Before we go on, just like you pointed out, we have to get an orientation, get a sense. When we say that gvul cannot be fit, cannot be mislabish in anything that it is gvuli. So as we pointed out many times, and hopefully today we will get even a clearer handle on this. When we say gvul, like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, that you have the ocean that has the amount of water that we cannot even name by any kind of measurements. That water is an enormous number of little drops, made up exactly the same drops that we have in our cup, except in the cup we have a smaller number of drops, and in the ocean there is incomparably greater number of drops, but they're identical drops. When we say gvul, you cannot have gvul finite entities, gvul drops.
You cannot. So it's incorrect to think of the ocean as gvul.
It's incorrect to think of gvul gvulim.
Okay, it's not an infinite collection of discrete items.
That's right. Gvul, therefore, means that we're referring to something in a different category. how do you categorize blik gvul? It's really very difficult for us because we are speaking in on the seichel level. At the highest level is our seichel. Seichel is a definitive koyach, and it can only surmise and conceptualize within the world of gvul. We talk about the blik gvul all the time. When we talk about blik gvul, we do not really grasp that element. The best way we can talk about blik gvul is to show how it would contrast with gvul. We have many misholim, so to speak, illustrations of this that will give us a handle on this. We said, for example, that when a person owns a home, and we point out ownership, that a human being owns a home, is a phenomenal thing. We don't really understand the significance of that in the full sense of the word. We understand it only in relative terms. I own it relative to somebody else, which is not real ownership. It's a relative ownership. Within a certain context, I own it. Real ownership is ownership from the perspective, it exists. At the level of its existence, it's mine. Not at the level of its use. What brings it into existence? God's word. From that level of existence, it is mine. That's my real ownership. Which means it's a godly declaration that this is mine. This is why in Torah we have Eides, Chukim, and Mishpotim. What are Mishpotim? Mishpotim are civil laws. Where does the Torah come in to get involved in such, so to speak, petty arguments among people? The heck with you! Stop fighting and make some kind of a deal and go on with life. The Torah instructs the Rabbanim, instructs us to get into and to understand all the nuances that are involved in this whole thing. And it's absolutely incumbent on a Rav, on the best, and the Sanhedrin, to identify correctly the correct owner of this little needle. Why? Because it has this godly fundamental reality. So, and this is something which is in fact blik gvul, and we have no grasp of it. We pointed out many times, we cannot grasp anything that's blik gvul. Our means of grasping, even like I pointed out, in the very simplest thing, how do we grasp a table? By going to its boundary, to its limit, outside of itself. But if you're not outside, you cannot pick up the table from the tabletop. The real table is what? not the edge. Delulay tape is a tabletop. You cannot pick up the tape on a tabletop. Because relative to our hand, it is gvul. It is too real.
So even though Torah gets into the minutiae of it never becomes a world, never brings it into a worldly context. It always remains.
It brings it in the world context. But it tells the world, it always reminds the world, you know who you are? You know how it came to be? It came to be because God made you. You didn't make yourself. This is stupidity.
Mm-hmm.
The whole phenomenon of existence is an ongoing phenomenal miracle.
And here, ownership was a mashal for.
Okay, so ownership is a means for us to get to strike us. Oh yeah, there's something unique about it. So the mashal that we have, and that clearly strikes us is this: if I have a home, and I decided to expand my home, so I take a wall off down. Okay, this is your next task. Take the wall down and move the wall 5 feet out and rebuild it and extend the whole house those 5 feet. I have 5 feet outside on this side. So once that expansion was made, how do I then occupy this additional 5 feet? Think about this. How do I occupy this additional 5 feet? I was never there yet. It was just built. Do I have to go and visit and walk through these 5 feet to say, oh, it's mine, I'm here, and my presence has affected it? Or am I there present automatically? It's a phenomenal thing. Everybody understands that if you expanded your house, you don't have to visit that expansion. You are present there automatically. How did you get there? The answer is because your presence in the house is bli gvul. It's not a presence by a process, by a finite process. I stepped on this piece of a board, on this piece of board, on this board, and that's how it became mine. There's an infinite, there's a bli gvul quality to this ownership. And who effectuated this bli gvul quality? The creator of the world. He set the rules. He says, I'm giving this world to the human being, and he can be a true owner of it. There can be many owners. There can be shutfim, all kinds of different laws. But it's all at that level. And where do we see that it is at that level? Because if it were all worldly, then you would have to really walk through every foot in order to claim that this is yours. And here you have a phenomenon that, and everybody understands it. It's an interesting thing. What does that tell us? It tells us about the world, about the godly presence in the world, and it tells us something about the human intelligence. Human intelligence also has an ability to recognize Ayin that is beyond limit. This is what's called Chokhmah. It's not a cumulative knowledge. If the house was expanded by 5 feet, I do not acquire this 5 feet 1 inch at a time. I dynamically acquire the entire 5 feet. The similar union, and even more impressive, also something that we discussed in class. You open your eyes and you'll just look out. I think last week, Thursday, we had that point also. You open your eyes and you look out. When you look out, at a glance, in an instant, and the only reason I say in an instant is because there's no other way to. But it's not even an instant. There's no time. You see an entire panorama, miles and tens of miles and hundreds of miles across. How does that occur? How does it occur that you can see cumulatively such an expanse? The sight is very quick, but still, how can you cross hundreds of miles in an instant?
At night you can cross millions and millions.
Yeah, if you want to,
billions
you
of
can really
miles.
get millions. By day also. Go straight into the sky. What is the meaning of that? What is the meaning of that? The meaning of that is that we see it from a completely different perspective. We don't see it from a finite, cumulative level. You see it from the perspective of the reality that presents it. There's a godly reality that brings the world to existence. And it gives it the full existence that the Eibusher wants. Just as in your house, your presence is everywhere. Because you're real. In the world, the Eibusher is real. Okay. What is this all about? Why are we revisiting this so often? To understand the words, bli gvul. Bli gvul means that it is not a bli gvul, an infinite number of gvulim. It is fundamentally of a different category of presence. It does not have a precarious existence. It is here, not here. It could be, not could be. The Eibusher wants it to be, and so it's there. There is no limit. That's mean bli gvul. Bli gvul means something that exists not on a precarious level that it has to be made to exist, you have to be proven to exist and so forth. It is a godly reality, that's mean bli gvul. So this is what we're saying. If it's anything that has the quality of bli gvul cannot relate to something gvuli in a true relationship manner. B'pnimis, so to speak, b'yashvus. And this is what the Rebbe is explaining. Since we're saying that the oiros are bli gvul, if we say the oiros are bli gvul, and the kelim are gvulim, and the kelim contain the oiros, how can it be? We have an absolutely similar and perhaps even a richer element, aspect of this, in the human being himself. We have a body and we have a soul, we have life. The body is a measurable entity. It has different organs and so forth. Each organ has its own design and its own limit and so forth. Then there is the chayas, there's the life. Life does not have any dimensions. It's very interesting. Very interesting. The life element, the soul, in a 6 foot or an 8 foot man, and in an infant that was born is the same. It's not a bigger soul or a smaller soul.
Windows open if anybody's cold.
What?
If anybody's cold, the windows open.
Oh, okay.
Want to close it?
No, we'll know and we'll decide. We'll take it to advisement if we want to close it or not. This is a clear phenomenon that we have. That bli gvul is in a totally different category. It cannot be viewed from a gvul perspective. Therefore, the question, how can a bli gvul be nisiyashev in a gvul, is a powerful question. And it's nisiyashev in the gvul, in a, so to speak, in a true relationship manner. Nisiyashev means it settles in, so that the gvul can actually appreciate the bli gvul. What does appreciate mean? Do I have you with me? And I'll take you a step further. What does appreciate mean? We have a soul in our body. The soul is life, essence of life. Soul is essence of life.
A soul is what?
Essence of life.
Essence of-
The body in itself is totally lifeless. It is a physical body. No matter what the material it's made of, a kind of fine elements, it's still a physical body. The soul is mislavish in the body, and it gives life to the body. Now we can view this in two ways. We interpret it in two different ways. This is slapshus. One is that is what's called a makif slapshus, or a chitzonizik slapshus, or a pnimizik slapshus. Let me demonstrate what we mean. I pick up this cup and I move it. Is the cup really moving? Does the cup then acquire any kind of quality of movement? An experience of movement? Right? Everybody understands? Zero, none. The effect of my living hand can move the cup. But the cup is totally unaware of it and is not affected by the life element that the hand touches it. This is what's called the chitzonizik relationship, and it's not really a relationship in the real sense. Then the shav is mislavish in the body. Lo and behold, the physical hand becomes sensitive. It becomes sensitive to the extent it's sensitive to something which is hardly tangible. We spoke about this many times. It becomes sensitive to something very, very, very fine, like silk. Silk does not affect the body in any which way. There's no coarseness in it. And yet, a finger can feel the silk. That's only because there is a life element in the finger. This life element is a ruchnizik element. How does the ruchnizik element feel the silk? Silk is gashmis, no matter how it is, how fine it is. It's still gashmis. How does the ruchnis feel the gashmis? The ruchnis doesn't feel the gashmis. The ruchnis is slavish in the finger, and the ruchnis becomes so involved in the finger that the finger itself comes to life. As a result, it is capable of being sensitive like a living entity to something which is completely refined, completely fine, no coarseness to it at all. There's much more to speak on it, but even on this motion itself, but I'll leave it, to be contemplated on by yourselves. But we see this in the reality of this. This is a hislapshus of beli gvul into a dover gvuli. That's why it says Chassidus, that the phenomenon of the neshama being in the guf is an ongoing miracle. That's what the bracha you make mafli lasis. Why is it mafli lasis? Because it's a wonder that we can never understand. Never ceases to be a wonder, no matter how long you experience it.
At the beginning we said that something infinite cannot fit, cannot be mislavish in something finite. And here, talking about the neshama and the guf, this is like an
Very
exception,
good.
this is a must.
No, it's not an exception. Good. That's exactly what we're coming to. So the neshama is mislabish in the guf and brings the guf to life. The guf comes to life to the extent that it becomes sensitive to things that the guf would normally not be sensitive. But, as we said, it remains a miracle, which means the guf does not really appreciate the whole phenomenon of this sensitivity.
We did say that the body appreciates this neshama.
The appreciation of the neshama is a ongoing miracle. The Rebbe forces this relationship, not that the guf appreciates and fully becomes like neshama.
Right, that whole thing about the silk was to indicate that there is a degree of sensitivity developed by the guf. Here we're taking the other side and saying...
And we're saying, still, even though it feels it, it doesn't become the property of the guf.
What does not become the property of the guf?
So, sorry?
What does not become the property of
The sensitivity that the neshama gives
Oh.
it. It remains a neshama element. But
when is that true? You said before that it becomes that the guf becomes a living, the finger becomes a living thing.
Living entity,
Right.
but it lives only because the neshama is in it.
Oh, and when so it's but
Not
it's,
because it appreciates what life is. The guf itself doesn't. The neshama, it's in it, the neshama permeates it, and he gets the sensitivity from the neshama, from the presence of the neshama. Then, what we're talking over here, I'm sorry?
Yeah. So, wait a second. So, granted, the body by itself, a dead body, does not appreciate anything. But how does the neshama appreciate bodily things? That's the miracle.
That's part of the miracle. The relationship between the neshama and the guf is called matli lasis. We'll come back and speak from the neshama perspective. There is, however, what the Rebbe is talking about is the slapshus of oires bikelim. What that means is we have koiches hanefesh. It's called chokhmah, bina, das, and then we have a midas, chesed, as we discussed this week. Now this is the chokhmah element. The chokhmah element is a recognition, and maybe they do it too much. Let's take it from the moshel, as they said, that we observe with our eye an unlimited expanse. We observe with our eye an unlimited expanse. Which means that the phenomenon of the chokhmah that's mislabish in this eye becomes part of the eye itself. Because you see this chokhmah on a physical level. This is what's called a slappish in the Aver itself. This is what the Rebbe is saying. How can there be a slapshus of the infinite in a finite entity? So we attempted the approach of saying that the kelim are not really finite, it's only koyach, koyach hagvul. From that perspective, you say koyach hagvul. I went where I didn't intend to go, but once I went there. From that perspective, it's koyach hagvul. It would mean that when we observe with our eye an infinite expanse, the eye does not really observe the infinite expanse. It's only telling. The seichel is the one who interprets that it sees an infinite expanse. It's not the eye. Excuse me?
What does the eye do then?
The eye is shown something that it doesn't know to interpret it, to relate to it.
So the eye is neutral.
The eye is just that's why the transparent entity. And then the seichel says, oh, wait a second. There's an infinite koyach behind this panorama.
Yeah. The eye sees a screen that's a panorama which is from here to here.
It's a window.
The mind sees into the depth of it.
Now talking about depth, even the expanse. The expanse is also infinite. Not only the depth. That is something different.
What do you mean by expanse?
Miles.
That's from side to side. It doesn't tell the eye
There is
that
not,
it's deep.
well, he sees the entire, everything that needs to be seen right in front of him.
In front, but not
No.
behind.
No, I'm behind.
Not what's behind it, what's
That's right,
in front.
but that itself,
not what's
but that
behind
itself-
what's in front.
that itself is relatively speaking infinite. Did you ever see an airplane moving in the sky just a few miles up?
See a what?
An airplane.
Yeah.
How fast is it flying?
You have no idea.
It's crawling.
You mean it appears to be
It appears to be crawling.
Right.
You know why?
Because it's such a space that
Oh,
it's
that's right,
crawling
because it's a
through.
huge space, exactly what I'm saying. And you are observing that whole space.
Well, okay, you're saying something
Okay,
different.
right. I was saying something different than that. So my point is this. This is, I went into this so that we would just step away from the words. I was speaking, bli gvul and gvul, we should understand bli gvul and bli gvul is really a categorical quality. It's not an infinite number of gvulim.
It's immeasurable.
It's immeasurable. It
Indivisible.
is immeasurable because it's based on something, on different reality. Okay, now let's pursue it inside.
Where are we?
Beyond the line that begins delulay,
Okay.
just below the middle of this
Got it.
page.
Got it.
Page Chavov, almost exactly in the middle, delulay is the beginning of the word. So the Rebbe is saying, yes, we're saying the kelim are only koyach gvul, but nonetheless there is an element of gvul that they affect, even within Atzilus. Why? Delulay koyach hamagbel sheba for if not for the koyach hamagbel that limits within Atzilus, harehoyu bibchinas bli gvul, then the kelim would be bibchinas bli gvul, in a bli gvul manner gam chutz la'Atzilus, even after outside of Atzilus.
But he doesn't explain how that happened. He just says it has to be that way.
Huh?
He just said, he's not saying how the process by which that happens. He's just saying it must be.
That's right. So it must be that it is gvul even in Atzilus, because if not for the gvul in Atzilus, there would be no possibility of koyach hamagbel chutz la'Atzilus. Okay. Now, again, what is the significance of being in Atzilus or chutz la'Atzilus? Shalom. What's a shalom? Outside of Atzilus and Atzilus.
Cheeseburger.
Right. So I'll have to try to understand it, like you say, on our level, in our cholent level. Okay, but the point is that there is an element within our own experience that is reflective of Atzilus versus outside of Atzilus. For example, again, going back to our ownership, our home ownership. If this wall is expanded 5 feet, since this is my home, I become present in the expansion area automatically. I have to go there. Why? Because it's my home. I myself am present in this home. If this were outside, not my home, it would say just outside. If it were outside, then in order for me to get and to cover that it's additional 5 feet, I will have to walk this additional 5 feet. But within my own domain, I'm there automatically. I don't have to go there. The principle of Atzilus is exactly that. The word Atzilus means nearby. Nearby what? Nearby the source, nearby Atzilus. Within the human being, this is nearby his own neshama, his own rotzen and oinek, his own reality. So that which is nearby, it has a completely different perception of things. It perceives things from a higher perception, from a neshama perception. And therefore it's conceivable that within Atzilus itself there is no sense of limit, of gvul. And gvul first begins to be surfacing outside of Atzilus. and the person goes outside of his domain, then he experiences gvul. But within his domain, there is no element of gvul at all. Do I have you with me?
Yeah, you might have thought
Right.
that.
Huh?
You might have thought that there's no
Yeah.
limit.
No
within it.
element of gvul at all. Like I point out, even on the most mundane level. Like I said, a person walks back and forth in the shul, in the same domain. He doesn't feel like he can be covering miles, and he doesn't feel he's doing anything. Even physically, it affected even the spirit of the walk itself. Because it's all within his own reality. He's perceiving, where am I? I'm in shul. In every crack and crevice, in every corner of the shul. I'm in his home. Therefore, I don't feel like I'm covering ground when I go from here to here. This is the concept of Atzilus. So one may think that within Atzilus there is not a concept of limit, of gvul, because it's completely imbued with the spirit of the essence. Okay. So the Rebbe is saying, delulay. These are the words that we are now coming to interpret. Delulay, if not for koyach hamagbish ba'atzilus, if there was no element of the koyach that affects some kind of a gvul within atzilus, then harei hoyu b'bchinas bli gvul gam chutz li'atzilus. Then it would be bli gvul even outside of atzilus. In other words, if there was no element of gvul within atzilus itself, then there would be no resultant gvul outside of atzilus.
Why is that? Why would you logically assume that?
Because everything comes through Chassidus.
Meaning the level below Atzilus could have different parameters. Does have different parameters.
Okay. So this is, as I said, this is an extremely challenging statement. And this is why we are standing on this already for 3 weeks, on these 2 lines. And the point that Rabbi is saying is that the very fact that if you were to think of it as something outside of Atzilus, which we'll discuss in a moment, that would have a gvul, then if it have a gvul, then within Atzilus itself it also has to have a gvul.
Right, I understood that.
Okay, let's perceive this. Let's perceive this. If I have you with me, okay, I'd like you to try to follow this. What is the outside of Atzilus within the human experience? It's your home. It's your home. And you are in every corner of the home. If the home is expanded, you're there automatically. Right? When we decided that. How do you project that element to outside of the human being, to outside of Atzilus?
Outside of his home?
Huh?
You mean outside of his home?
No, outside of the home is within his home. If it's outside of the home, so then it's not affected by the home. What we have to find is something that is affected by the home, by Atzilus, but it has an element of gvul. And that would prove to us that with Atzilus also there is an element of gvul. Outside of the home is in completely different arena.
By decorating the home.
What do you mean?
By putting in the furniture, by appointing it and painting it, and whatever, the way you like it. Making the home the space the way you want
I always
it
said,
to be.
Shmuel, you have a good head.
Huh?
I always said that you have a good head.
Okay.
Okay? Now that I gave you this compliment, remember, don't miss a shear.
Okay, you got it. Native, okay.
So please understand what that means. This is the same home. The same home. But then you put a chair into this extended 5 feet. How many chairs can you put there? One chair? And in order to get to that chair, you really have to walk to that chair and go there. You, from your own perspective of your own presence, you're there. But if you, it's more, we're blocking some. But if you were to translate that your own being, your own presence, from on an outside level, then it would be limited. Then it is exactly 5 feet. And in order to get there, you have to bring the chair over you have to carry it over every inch. It's not going to get there automatically, even though it's still in your own home. Yes, sir.
So it's sorry to be so materialistic, but in order for
We are very materialistic. Go ahead.
for an owner of a house to expand 5 feet, he needs to get a permit.
So
That's right. That's right. That's why I'm very careful how I speak about it, because if you're gonna report on me to City Hall, I'm gonna have problems.
it's a very good totalitarian line.
Yeah.
Okay, you can turn up your
Okay, now this is exactly what we're dealing with. It's exactly what we're dealing with. It's an interesting thing. You yourself are there instantaneously, and you don't have to get there to be there. And yet, by your jurisdiction, if you were to take anything, a chair or a cup or a napkin, and put there, you have to actually carry it there and put it there. Why?
This is showing.
Because the napkin and the are separate from you, and therefore they are within the realm of gvul. You are like a bli gvul relative to that. You own the home in a bli gvul manner, on the most fundamental level. But the chair does not own the home, relate to the home at that fundamental level. It relates to the home on a much more limited level, on a relative level. And therefore it has all the dimensions and the limits of measurement. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So far so good, right?
This is a mashal for leaving Atzilus?
Yes.
Outside Atzilus.
But leaving Atzilus and coming from Atzilus there. Not leaving Atzilus in an unrelated manner, like outside of the home. It's still within the home. Still you're within your home, and you perceive it as your domain, and yet there you have to deal with the measurements of the home.
In other words, you want to say that that the chair before you will always speak about this, that the chair and a table before they become actual chair and a table, they are in the inception. They exist in their inception in the makeup of the human being.
No, yeah, this is we are talking about right now a factual chair and table, or maybe whichever way you speak about the chair and table. The point is that this is a chair and table that actually requires room. Whether it's projecting a chair and table, or you bring an actual table, a chair and table.
I'm sorry. The reason I brought it is because you say we're talking about chair and table as say outside of Atzilus. They have a gvul and they outside of Atzilus. But I'm saying that they you could also see maybe how within Atzilus they also have the gvul.
Okay, so what we are looking for, here's what we're looking for. We're looking for something that's outside of Atzilus, but it is drawn from Atzilus.
Right.
If you go outside of the house, it's not drawn from the house. It's a separate entity completely. Here we're looking for something that is outside of Atzilus, but not independently present. It is Atzilus that allows it to be. Because Atzilus is nibshach, is reflected and is drawn into the outside Atzilus. So now we are saying this: if outside Atzilus, something that's inside Atzilus, causes that outside to have an element of gvul, then it must be that within Atzilus itself there was an element of gvul.
One more time. Because you land up with this thing outside of Atzilus that has gvul, you have to.
And it came from Atzilus. Therefore, it needs to be within Atzilus itself. There has to have been an element of gvul. Otherwise, where does the element of gvul come from Atzilus into outside of Atzilus?
Right.
Where do we see in this marshal that the gvul element came from Atzilus?
Oh, because it's still in the same home. By what right did you put the chair on here? Did you go to City Hall for permission? No, it's your home. Okay.
The owning of the home is the mashal for Atzilus? The relationship of
Yeah,
owning.
it's your home. So, it's obvious that we will not finish the scene tonight. But you see what we're talking about. If you miss a class, I'm going to kick you.
What is, Rabbi, what is the difference between the mashal of the man in his home and the soul in the body? Is there a difference?
Okay.
Okay.
We have enough of this.
All right.
Okay. Okay. Do we sense this union? If the person within his own sense of his home, which we say he occupies his home totally, instantaneously, no matter how big it is. If he had no idea, and there was no element of gvul within that supreme level of the human being, of his ownership of this property, then it could not, it could not project itself with a gvul outside of his personal presence. When he starts, like you say, he starts appointing in the house. Where he's appointing it to reflect his own likes, his own needs, his own person. Like you said, what's a chair about? Chair is something that a human being uses.
That's
A little bit?
Well, there's degrees of occupation, and like he said, decorating,
Decorating?
putting a picture on.
By what right is he decorating it?
He wants to instill his own life into the walls.
Who gave him the right to do that?
He's doing it by himself.
Huh?
He's doing it because it's his home.
Because it's his home. And yet you say, but this is something which is functional as if it were outside. It's functioning as if it were outside. There, in other words, to decorate it, you have to actually carry the picture and put it there. It does not, and it does not reflect his presence automatically. Yeah.
That's the gvuli. That's the gvuli.
That's the gvul element.
to walk in the home also, it's not automatic.
The walking of one is not automatic, correct. But an interesting thing, like you pointed out, this we have to dig in a little bit more. It's an interesting phenomenon in the human experience that within a demarcated area, the challenge to cover, to walk it, is much less than in an open area. Let me see. Let's see what's okay, our time is up. All right. So, as I said, we're getting a snackling of what this is, what we're dealing with today. We can cover these words without going through all this trouble and to translate it properly, but we have to know what it means.